Another week, another wow. Word of the week. Welcome to my office. Welcome to the calm of another morning. Our word this week is the word swamp. Somewhat unusual word of the week. I think we can find spiritual lessons, a word that not only guides us as we live in this world, but also a word that will help us find orientation as we anticipate life in a world to come. When we get older, we tend to reminisce. For Jan and for me, we consider Michigan one of our happy places. We have special memories, especially in the fall with the copper leaves, last canoe trip of the season. Enjoyed the Michigan rivers, flowing fast enough to help you move along and enjoy the scenery, the foliage, but not so fast as to be a challenge. Other Michigan memories include the home we built on 10 acres. Time flies. We think back, we bought a property out in the country, built a home that we had designed. The house then was a special place for us, one of our memories. But it was also a place of swamp, or as it would be often called, forested wetlands. Our swamp held water in the winter, froze over, fall rains had filled it. It was filled with wonderful hard maples. Fall foliage was wonderful. When the spring thaw came, it tended to stay full, and then it was still full enough when summer arrived to generate more mosquitoes than we wanted. But it was a beautiful walk, about 3 or 4 months of the year, delightful. Perhaps those 3 or 4 months should have been enough to offset the rest of the year, but it wasn't always that way. We, as a family, still talk about our swamp more than we talk about our forested wetlands. So I want to think about rivers and swamps. I share something I recently reflected about on the front page of my website. Rivers and swamps. Churches are usually one or the other. Same is true of people. In Michigan, the rivers that we enjoyed were flowing. They were going somewhere. They were fresh and vibrant. They were sufficient to keep moving along. But if the river gets too wide and it has no banks to hold it in, it becomes a swamp. A swamp, not going anywhere, just water normally becomes stagnant eventually, somewhat shallow. I think no place on our swamp was ever more than about 3 feet deep. But there's an application as you think about how we live our lives. Some people are not going anywhere. Some people have direction. Some people do the same thing again and again. And we do face the possibility of stagnating. I think it's important in our spiritual life that we have direction, that we understand the importance of flowing water to be vibrant and alive. I remember a hitchhiker I saw one time several years ago whenever I was living in another city. I was going home for lunch. Hitchhiker was alongside the road, hitchhiking, wanting to go the opposite direction from what I was going. And then, whenever I returned to the church building in the afternoon after lunch, he was on the other side of the road trying to grab a ride the other direction. Kind of reminds me of the old saying, is anyone going anywhere? So, do we know our God given purpose? That's where I want to go today. Do we have the ability to stay focused on our life purpose, to avoid the tendency to be wide with no depth? Or are we happy to find the deep spiritual life, even though it may be limited in its scope? I share a quote from a newsletter I recently received. It's a quote from John Wesley. I like it. You have nothing to do, he's writing to preachers or those who of his day were a part of the leadership of the small groups. You have nothing to do but to save souls. Therefore, be about your task. Be spent in this work. The way Solomon said it was to keep the main thing the main thing. Let us devote our efforts to the main thing. Because if we do that, we'll be more like a river and less like a swamp. A river flowing steady and strong and deep toward the purpose that God has. I don't know whether this lesson is as meaningful to you as it is to me. I somewhat like the comparison of those memorable Michigan rivers that were wonderful for canoeing and that swamp, forested wetland that we enjoyed, but it also had its own unique challenges. Thank you for being with me again. Always a joy to spend time with you. Remember, I love you. God loves you. That's the way it's going to be. Let's go forth and make every effort we can to be more like a river and less like a swamp, especially as we think about our spiritual lives. God bless.